چطورید؟ به کانال من خوش اومدید. امروز 7 اپریل بهار، اینجا داریم میریم فستیوال میپل سیروپ، فارسیش میشه شیره افرا. درخت افرا یکی از درختاییه که توی کانادا خیلی زیاد میبینید، انقدر زیاده که پرچم خود کانادا اون برگه هست وسط پرچم، اون خود برگ درخت افراه. تو فصل بهار این موقع ها از یه 2-3 هفته از خود درخت شیره گرفته میشه و شیره درخت افراه. حالا این پروسه و فرایندش رو من هیچ وقت حالا ندیده بودم که چطوری این کار رو انجام میدن. یه روش سنتی داره، یه منطقه های مختلفه. ما امروز یکی رو اومدیم با هم بریم ببینیم چطوریه و 10 سال اینجا من خودم هنوز ندیدم. حالا خوبیش اینه که با هم میریم میبینیم. بریم ببینیم. بلیطام رو آنلاین خریدیم. فکر کنم نفر $7 اینطورا شد. حالا میریم داخل. این منم. وقتی میای داخل یه کافی شاپ کوچولو داره، میتونی کافینا بخری برای خودت، قهوه بخوری. بعد بچه‌ها رو از مدرسه اینا هم میارن، کلی هم آدم اینجاست. حالا بریم ببینیم اینا چی داره. اینا هم فکر کنم گیفت شاپه، سری چیزای مختلف هم میفروشن. بریم ببینیم چیا داره. حالا جینگ جینگ. این استرابری میپل سیروپ، شیره افرا با توت فرنگیه. این میپل سیروپه، میبینین برگری که گفتم، این اون برگ است، این شکلیه. اوخی اینو ببین. انجام داریم. اینه دیگه، اون برگه که میگم اینه، برگ درخت افرا. اینجا هم از اینا گذاشتن که میتونی با چوب شور امتحان کنی و اگه میخوای بخری مزه‌ش هم ببینی چطوریه. Good, how are you? Oh, sure. Maybe. Okay, what a difference. I'll try some jelly. خب قرار شد من یکی امتحان کنم. این تکیلا با لیمو. حالا بریم بخوریم ببینیم چجوریه. اینه اینجوری بهت یه مدل داده، حالا میخورم ببینم چطوریه. میخندم به من.
نه من میخوام ببینم چی داری میذاری تو الان اونجا.
چیزی نمیذاری، نمیذاری یوتیوب.
آره یوتیوبه.
بس بخورم ببینم چی جوریه. این تکیلا و لایمه. خوشمزه است. مثل سویت و اسپایسیه. باحاله.
چی هست؟ سامپل میده؟
آره خوشمزه بود. این خوشمزه. آره برایش گفت تو خودت منو سورپرایز کن.
اوکی. Okay. Beautiful.
باید من نگرد. صلواتی بفرست به روح پرفتو. ببینیم چطوره؟ میپاس. حالا پیش به سوی میپل سیروپ تو مسیر بریم ببینیم چطوری میپل سیروپ رو میگیرن، شیره درخت افرا رو میگیرن، روشش رو توضیح میده. منم دونه دونه براتون پلاکاردی که تو مسیر هست رو ترجمه میکنم. درخت افرا باید حداقل 80 سانتی متر قطرش باشه یا 40 سال بیشتر سنش باشه که بتونیم تپش کنیم، یعنی از این سطلا که تو مسیر نشونتون میدم از اونا بهش وصل کنیم که بتونیم شیرش رو بگیریم. حالا درخت هایی که 200 سانتی متر قطرشون هست میتونن تا 4 تا سطل به همون شیره درخت افرا بدن.
They'll have opposite arrangement or alternate. Opposite arrangement is when there's a main stem and the new growth twigs will come out in twin pairs at the exact same spot. Alternate arrangement, they alternate, one here, one here, one here, one here. Opposite arrangement, that's how you can identify a maple tree in the wintertime. That's the best way to do it. Yeah. Once you find a maple tree, what you're going to do is you take a drill like this. While I'm talking, feel free to grab one of those drills. You can try drilling your own hole in a post if you're interested to. We would drill a hole into a tree and then put in one of these things, which is called a spile. We could do it this method where we put the spile in and hang a bucket on it, or you could do it, this is the more modern method you might see in maple syrup production, where they put a plastic spile in and there's a system of tubes carrying the sap elsewhere. We collect the sap, take that sap, boil it down, release all the water from it as steam, and then add more sap and repeat and repeat and repeat so that the sugars get concentrated more and more and more, because we're adding more sap, kicking out the water, more sap, kicking out the water. If we do that enough times and for long enough, we can turn it into maple syrup. And that's pretty much the whole process, just boiling sap for long enough. So these are the different, they're not technically, they used to be called different grades. Now they're all considered grade A maple syrup. Grade A maple syrup is the 66.5% sugar, but they have different colors and actually different tastes. And it all depends on how long you had to cook it for. So the darker syrup, I had to cook it for a lot longer than the lighter syrup. And that's because it has to do with the time of the year I collected the sap. At the very, very beginning of maple syrup season, the sap has a higher sugar percentage. And as the season goes on, it tapers off and slows down. So if I took syrup from the first couple days of the season, it would have the highest sugar it possibly could, about 5% sugar. I could make the light syrup because I wouldn't have to cook it for as long. If I took the syrup at the end of the season, it would be as low as 2 or even 1% sugar. I'd have to cook it a lot longer to get up to that 66.5%. So they all have the same finishing line, but they have different starting positions. And the longer cooking time gives it a darker color and a stronger maple taste. Yeah. It's really similar to roasting barley when you're making beer. The longer you roast it for, the stronger the flavor. Yeah.
And when is the exact season? Is it start from March?
So it all has to do on temperature. It has to be below 0 during the night and above 0 during the day. And it has to keep that back and forth. Freezing, not freezing. Below 0, above 0, below 0, above 0. That is what causes the sap, which is all stored in the roots, to start moving up the tree. And it's going to keep moving until it stops getting cold. Once we're into springtime and it's warm, the sap stops flowing, and all the sap that's moved up to the branches, it stays up there because they use the sugars, they break down the sugars into energy, and they use that energy to make their new leaves for the springtime. since maple trees drop all their leaves in the fall, they need a bunch of energy to make all those new leaves in the spring, and that's what sap is. It's their energy stores. Yeah.
Let me try.
Sap is 97% water and only 3% sugar, so it looks just like water. No, yeah, not at all. It's mostly water.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Cool, yeah.
Thank you. سه تا درخت میپل هست. این سه نوع درخت میپل درخت های افرایی هستن که شیرهشون به خاطر قند بالا برای میپل سیروپ یا همون شیره درخت افرا استفاده میشه. رد میپل، بلک میپل و شوگر میپل بهش میگن. حالا مسیر رو میریم ببینیم چطوره. اینجا نوشته که این درخت 250 تا 300 سالشه. این درختی که این پشته و براش چشم و ابرو هم تازه کشیدن. این ریشه هاش چشم ابرو داره. حالا بریم اونجا. شیره درخت افرا اولین بار توسط خود بومیای کانادا استفاده شده و یه به روش سنتی زمان خودشون استخراج می شده که برای اون از تنه درخت و آتیش برای بخار کردن آب اضافه خود شیره درخت افرا استفاده می کردن، همونجور که توی عکس می بینید. زمان گرفتن شیره درخت افرا که زمانی که شبها دما زیر 0 درجه و روزها بالای 0. همونجور هم که دیدید 2 تا 3% فقط شکره، بقیهش آبه. این هم پروسه درست کردنشه.
This is the 1800s early European settler station, and this is how we make maple syrup, starting with sap. And actually, kids were a big part of the maple syrup process. And origins of March break, if anybody here went on March break a few weeks ago, that is because of maple syrup. So what would happen is, on a kid's 8th birthday in Canada, when they turned 8 years old, they were given one of these. And these are called shoulder yolks. So this was an 8th birthday gift. It sits on your shoulders just like this. It'd be carved out for you so it fit really comfortably. It wouldn't ache you, wouldn't make your neck hurt. And it was your job to go collect all the silver buckets that were in the trees collecting sap. So you'd be taken out of school for 6 whole weeks, which sounds pretty nice, until you find out you're working the whole time. So now it's kind of a trade-off. You get 1 week for March break, but you get to sleep in. So that's kind of nice. So you would come back and put the sap into your grandma or your mom's first pot. And this is what it would look like. It just looks like water, right? It doesn't look like anything special. It's full of sap, and sap is mostly water, a little tiny bit of sugar. So what we're doing is just what the indigenous station was doing and what you'll see going forward. Methods never really changed, it's just the tools that changed. But we're simply just evaporating the water and leaving behind the sugar, trying to concentrate the sugar. So I can tell that it's working because of this white cloud forming, that's steam, that's water evaporating. So I'm going to let this cook for 8 whole hours. And after 8 hours, I'll ladle it into this second pot and let it cook another 8 hours. So after that 8 hours is up, you can see it's starting to change color, just a little. Doesn't look like maple syrup yet, but it's getting there. I know that it's we're on our way. So it's still not long enough. So I let it cook for another 8 hours. 8 hours in this pot, 8 hours in that pot. And then I finally ladle it into my third pot, and this is called a finishing pot. So can anybody guess if it's 8 hours in that pot and 8 hours in this pot? How many do you think is in this pot? Yep.
8 hours.
Exactly, 8 hours. So 24 whole hours, 8 hours in each pot. And at the end, it's going to start to look like the color of maple syrup. But it's still a little watery. It doesn't look like the consistency. If you put it on your pancakes, they'll turn to mush really quick. So I know that I'm not done. The way that we figured out whether or not we were done is by just calling over the expert in the family. So they would be the ones who would maple syrup the longest, typically the grandma, and she'd give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. She'd look for something called eprening. It's also called sheeting, and it would be if she turned the ladle, instead of falling off like water just did, it would kind of cascade down slowly in ribbons. So she'd tell us, yes, you have syrup, and we would start to filter it. Now, why do you think we might filter our maple syrup before we eat it? Yeah?
So that way it wasn't dirty?
Exactly. Did you get to look at any of the silver buckets on your way up?
Yep.
Did they look clean? No, there was lots of bugs in them, leaves, debris. That's all going to be in my pots as well because we're taking the silver buckets, putting them right into our kettles, and as it cooks, there's going to be more bugs, more leaves, more ash. It's all going to accumulate in our pots. So we'll take a grandpa's old shirt. It's his favorite shirt, but I don't have anything else. So I'm going to use it to filter my syrup. So I can filter it. You can see the top is pretty dirty. That's all that stuff that's got out. And you're going to be left with relatively clean syrup. Yeah. Should be bug free.
To look dark like maple syrup.
So why 3 pots?
So that's a great question. There's a few different reasons for these pots. So each one of these would be worth as much as a car to the settlers. So if you saw 3 pots, you would know that families came together to each contribute a pot, and that way you could have an assembly line going. So once you ladled this into that, kids could go get more, bring it back. So it was a lot more efficient. Another reason 3 pots is really beneficial is because sap, if you have it in one pot, it has a high chance of going sour if you let it sit for a long time. So if you keep it moving, it's going to taste a lot better in the end. And also because as sap cooks away, the volume's decreasing, so you're decreasing the size of your pots and you're also lifting them above the fire. So if you have this, it's kind of hard to tell, we don't really have it as high, but basically it's a less chance to burn as you raise the kettle above the fire. So there's a few reasons for the 3 kettle method, but you can do it with 1 kettle if you need to. Another thing we could do is also make maple sugar, and this was actually way better for settlers because they didn't have to worry about keeping it fresh in the summer. So we don't have fridges. If we have a liquid maple syrup, it's going to go bad once the summer comes. So we can cook it into a sugar, maple sugar, and this will last us all year. If we did want syrup, we could put it into water and reconstitute it, make it syrup again. But typically this is what we were going for. We would use sugar molds with our family's initials on them, and that would be because these were very valuable. They took so much time to make, a lot of effort. It was a whole family affair. So we would use this to trade. We would use this as our money basically. We don't have time for cows or chickens. We're here all summer or all spring and winter, so we're just making maple syrup. We can trade this for milk or eggs or a new shirt for my grandpa, whatever I need. So that's essentially how we did it, and we would also, if we wanted to crush it up, make some granulated sugar. It's a little bit different because it's maple sugar, similar to what you might have, cane sugar in your cupboard, but it's really delicious, good for baking. Cane sugar did exist, or does exist in the 1800s, but it was very, very, very expensive because it was imported all the way from overseas. So we made our own. So if you'd like maple syrup yourself, there's a sampling station behind you. Feel free to grab a sample, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
خب الان میخوایم بریم یه دونه از این امتحان کنیم، یه دونه از اینا بگیریم امتحان کنیم بریم چشم خانمه بهمون اینجا داره الان. Hello. Thank you.
I did.
بخوریم بریم چه
I stuck down here while she was picking her dish and had one.
من که فکر کنم باور کنین خریدن. از اینا که توی میری والمارت میخری و میده آخه.
نمیدونم حتما من
بخور،
که نمیتونم بخورم.
یه ذره بخور.
ولی این خیلی عجیبه.
یه ذره-
ولی این خیلی شوگر داره 66
بابا یه
درصدش.
قلقلوب نمیره. باش من میخورم.
شاید هم ببین خب اینا همینه که درست کنن دیگه پروسسش میکنن.
آخه خب بریم ببینیم حالا بریم به کجاشه. دیگه تموم شد دیگه برمیگردیم دیگه. آره دیگه اونا ویزیتور سنتر دار. آی باحال بود.
جالبه کلا.
Oh shoot! I missed it.
اینا بارنه اینجا.
آره. عجله دارم برم. بریم ببینیم پرزنتیشن دیگه.
چقدر پیاده روی کردی؟
Are you having fun for rides? Yes. Do you guys like maple syrup? Yeah. All right, you guys are in the right spot. Oh, we have new. Come on in. We're just getting started. So, did any of you guys see these tubes on the hills? Yes. Nice. Does anyone know what they're used for? Not bugs. Something related to maple syrup. Anybody have any ideas? Sap Express. I like that. Yeah. Can everybody see? You guys see? So this is for the sap. I heard Sap Express. I really like that. So this is what you drill into the tree, and then this is your spile. So you put this in the tree, and then the sap goes through the tubes, and if you go back outside, you'll see a larger black pipe.
Yeah.
They all connect to that large black pipe, and that's our sap highway, or the sap water slide. So the sap's flying through there, down into our giant tank over here. And so it's like a water slide. Can you go, so when you're at Wild Water Kingdom, have you ever seen someone go up a water slide? That'd be kind of crazy, right? You only see people going down water slides, and why is that? Gravity, that's right, and that's what we're using here. It's free, it's great. It's bringing all the sap down the hills to us. So the sap is collecting in my big bucket over here. It's so big that some of you little guys could probably swim in it if it's full of sap. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. So, do you remember how many buckets of sap does it take to make one bucket of maple syrup? 40, that's right. So, with that 40-to-1 ratio, the amount of sap that I have in this bucket, I can make 30 buckets of sap. That's a lot of maple syrup for a lot of pancakes. Yeah. I'm excited. All right, so the sap goes through those tubes and valves and into my evaporator. Can you guys say evaporator?
Evaporator.
Evaporator is a big word. And it's called an evaporator because the water in the sap is evaporating or leaving from the sap. So, and it's leaving behind the sugar. So the steam that you see, that's the water evaporating out of the sap. And eventually it makes maple syrup. Yummy, yummy, delicious maple syrup. And this whole process only takes me 6 hours. Wow. So for you kids, by the time you go to school, if we started, by the time you come home, we'd have maple syrup for you to put on your pancakes. So it's a lot quicker than the settlers. Does anyone remember how long it took them to make maple syrup?
24 hours.
That's right, yeah, 888, 24 hours. That's way too long for me. I want it quick. So there's a couple of reasons why we've sped up this process. There's 3 reasons in particular. And they're well, it's all about science. Are you guys ready for some science? Sure. Okay, awesome. So my first science question is, what shape is this?
What shape is it?
Rectangular prism.
Rectangular prism, yeah.
Wow.
And what shape were the kettles? Yeah, like a sphere.
Cylinder.
Well, a cylinder would be more like a column, but they would be sphere. That's kind of like a ball shape. So this is important because we want the sap to be spread out, really thin. So that's what's happening here. It's all spread out on the bottom, and that's because we want it to be in contact with the heat source underneath. Because if more of it is hot, that means more of it is going to be boiling and more water is going to come out. So it's much faster than the kettles. So first is the shape. That's what speeds it up. The second is the heat source. So can anyone tell me how many fires do we have in there?
3.
There's not quite 3. Can anyone show me a fire?
One.
There's one here. This is a very important fire because this is what I use to keep my hands
One
warm.
will be in there. One will be in there.
There's one in here. That's right. This is my secret fire, but it's very, very important. So it's a very big fire. It's extending all the way along here, and it's burning very, very hot. And I'll show you guys. You can see the reflection.
Wow, fire.
It's very hot. So let's put a couple more logs on. Because we want it to keep going. This is what we do all day.
Very, very
We
hot.
just throw logs in here and keep the fire going, because that's very important. The best part about this, though, it's enclosed, so it means it's going to be way hotter than the settlers' fires that are outside in the elements. But my favorite part, smoke doesn't get in my eyes. Did you see them rubbing their eyes? That doesn't happen here. Instead, it goes out this chimney. Out there. But Santa Claus doesn't come down this chimney, don't worry. And I go home smelling nice and sweet from the steam instead of smoky from the smoke from the fire. So, first reason why it takes a shorter time, the shape. Second reason is the heat source is just better, efficient. Third reason, what color is it? Anyone know what color my evaporator is? Silver. Yeah, silver. What color were the kettles? Black. So that's the material. So the black kettles are cast iron.
Yeah.
They were brought in from Europe many years ago. Cast iron soaks up heat, and it takes a very long time. Whereas this is stainless steel.
Yeah.
The heat goes, it's very, very quick, goes through, and then it starts heating up the sap much quicker and much more efficiently. Plus it's much lighter, so it's easier to use. So with the shape, the heat source, and the material, we can condense a 24-hour long period of making maple syrup into just 5 or 6 hours. So, you guys want to see what's in my evaporator? All right.
Wow.
So the sap is going from that big bucket there through these tubes and valves into the evaporator, and let's see. It's getting kind of golden already. So it's going to be going through these channels like a maze, and it's all with gravity. It goes through here, through this valve, and this is to stop it from overflowing. Go here. Then it goes into this. This is my finishing pan. And all right, this is a thermometer. So I want it to read 104 degrees, and then I know it's almost ready, because that's the temperature you need to make maple syrup. Right now it's only at 70. So I want your help. Can you guys tell me, would you put this on your pancakes? Yes or no? All right, are you ready?
No. You put that on the pan?
Not yet.
No,
It looks
not
a little bit runny, right? Do you guys like soggy
Just
pancakes?
sugar water, not syrup.
Well, if you like soggy pancakes, I'll give you some of this. But if it was ready, then it would be more cascading in sheets, or like falling off the ladle more thickly. In layers, yeah. So that's when I know it's ready. So when it's ready, I would turn this faucet. It's not working right now, but if you use your imagination, I turn it, maple syrup would come out, and it would go through this filter. This would catch all those fine particles that you might not want in your maple syrup. Goes into this bucket, and then we can start the bottling process, and we're ready to go, ready to put it on pancakes. And do you guys have any questions about this evaporator process?
See the evaporator?
No? Okay, well, before I let you guys go, I want just a couple more things. You guys, have you seen the roof of the shack? Do you know why it's higher in the middle? Any guesses why it might be higher?
For the steam not to come down.
Exactly, it's to capture the steam. And we also have trap doors up there, so the steam can leave and sort of, let's move it a bit. Those are very important. But I gotta remember to close those at the end of the night. Because if I don't close them, we might get a couple of visitors. And the visitors have 5 fingers and masks around their face, their eyes. You guys know what they might be?
What is it?
Raccoons, yes, they love maple syrup. We usually put lids on these, so they can't get in that way. But one time they got in, and they figured out how to turn this on.
Oh.
And there was maple syrup all over the floor, paw prints everywhere, and 2 very happy raccoons.
Oh.
And for some of you at the beginning, you actually saw a chipmunk running around, licking up some sap. So a lot of creatures love maple syrup. It's not just humans. One more fun fact before I let you guys go. Has anyone tried the different kinds of maple syrup? Does anyone have a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Light.
You like the lights? Nice. I like the dark. So it's all your preference. Does anyone know why we have different colors? Yeah.
Because you take samples at different times of the season.
Right on, exactly. So the season, it starts in the end of February, and then it ends in mid-April. End of February, the trees have more sugar content in their sap because they're trying to make their leaves. With more sugar content, we don't need to boil the sap as long to make maple syrup. That's why you get this lighter color. At the end of the season, there's less sugar in the sap. That means we need to boil it even longer to get the sugar content up. And the sugar content we need is 66.5% to get maple syrup. Then we get this darker color. So these all have 66.5% sugar content. It just depends on the time of year and how long you're boiling it. So I hope you guys try all these. Try them all, see which one's your favorite. And I hope you guys have a great day here at Courtright. Thanks for stopping by the Sugar Factory.
اینم یه قسمتی از روش مدرنایز گرفتن شیره درخت افراست که این خانم قشنگ توضیح داد برامون. منم حالا یه ویدیو میگم که داخلش رو بتونیم با هم ببینیم. دیگه از اون سطلا و زمان طولانی استفاده نمیشه. شیره درخت افرا بر اساس رنگش طبقه بندی میشه. اول فصل یا رنگاشون روشن‌تره تا آخر فصل. این طنابای آبی هم که میبینید همون روش مدرنایزه. دیگه الان از اون سطلا استفاده نمیشه و از این طنابای آبی استفاده میشه. بر اساس جاذبه زمین شیره ها به سمت این خونه که دیدین میره و اونجا از طریق مدرنایز خود شیره درخت افرا رو میگیرن. %85 میپل سیروپ یا شیره درخت افرا کل جهان رو کانادا تولید میکنه، به خاطر اینکه کلی درخت افرا داره و هواش مناسب تولید کردن شیره هستش. فصل گرفتن شیره درخت افرا موقعی که درخت شروع میکنه به جوانه زدن تموم میشه. خب میپل سیروپ ما هم تموم شد. تا بعد. خدافظ.